The first thing to say is that the comments are on for this one. So all those people who like to pour out their bile can do so on this one. I might do on a few others actually. The abusive stuff doesn't actually really bother me all that much. It's just that it's not very pretty, is it? So the people I think the people who are normally pouring out their bile are the Gurdjieff groupies that don't particularly like me. But there might be a few others as well. Anyway, you can see from the title of this one, the joke is on us. And it's fairly strong stuff, and I don't doubt it's going to offend a lot of people, but I don't care. I don't owe you any favours, you certainly don't owe me any. So let's get into it. What if all the religion and spiritual traditions were nothing but fanciful thinking? What if the whole thing has been a huge con? Why are we prone to this con? Well, we're prone to it because we're desperate to try and establish some purpose or meaning for ourselves. And why are we prone to do that? Well, we're prone to do it because we've got egos and we want to feel important. So if we've got a meaning or a purpose, then it makes us feel as though we're significant. We're looking for significance all the time. So we're kind of ready suckers for anything that comes along, actually. Anything. Even someone telling you that you can just think about stuff and it materializes. And millions, maybe tens of millions of people bought into that one. So that tells you how gullible we are when it comes to someone trying to convince us that we have some kind of power in this seemingly vast and futile universe, or futile from our point of view. So what if all that religious and spiritual stuff is nothing but fanciful thinking? Just to make us feel good. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying from a rational point of view, maybe that's what it is. And what if no one on this planet has any greater insight into the nature of things than you do? Now, when I say into the nature of things, clearly somebody who's studied, fucking quantum physics or something knows more about that than you or I do. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about fundamental things like, where do you come from? Have you got a soul? Is there life after death? Did the universe begin? How did it all come about? Is there a God? Is there a meaning? Is there purpose? Is there an order in the universe? So on and so forth. The big questions. And actually nobody's got answers to those things, which should give you a clue about things actually. But anyway, what if no one on this planet has any greater insight into those things than you do? Namely, they don't have any insight. Because if you think about it, and if you read certain philosophers, you'll find that these things are not knowable by human beings. And in fact, the questions are probably meaningless anyway. But anyway, what if all the religion and spiritual stuff was basically a bunch of crap? And what if there's all these people who are pretending to be gurus and all the rest of it actually have no more idea about the nature of the whole thing at a fundamental level than you or I do? What a leveler that would be. And in fact, could the human race continue to thrive and exist if that was the case? If someone took away their comforter, said, actually, stand on your own feet. You don't need all this crap. But the thing is, lots of people do need that crap, clearly, because this is a multi-billion-dollar, in fact probably trillion-dollar business. Gurus and religion and so on, and the Roman Catholic Church is one of the wealthiest organizations on the planet. So clearly people are prepared to um, buy all of this stuff to make them feel good. You know, who was it? Somebody said religion is the opium of the masses. Was it Marx? Somebody like that. Yeah, he's sort of right. But, you know, there is a danger of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and I'll get onto that in a moment. But, you know, fortunately we have people like U.G. Krishnamurti, and if you haven't come across U.G. Krishnamurti, he's worth watching, you know, who says that gurus are con men. And in fact, his language is stronger than that. He calls them those bastards. And he was kind of raised in a guru type environment. He was supposed to be the next big guru to come out of India. And he looked at it all and he thought, what a pile of crap. And he abandoned it. And in the end, instead of having millions of followers, he had a few dozen who were happy to listen to him talk about the nature of reality rather than wishful thinking. But you know, what is being sold by these people? Well, things like enlightenment, nirvana, moksha, salvation. Why are they selling these things, and why is there a ready market for it? Well, because most people are miserable. And that's an understatement. You know, a lot of people are in a great deal of pain, perhaps physical, but usually emotional. 1 in 16 people in the West is on antidepressants or anxiety medication. And that's probably just the tip of the iceberg. So existence for human beings is, you know, kind of difficult. It's a whole different topic, but it's difficult. And it's difficult because we have to strive to survive. We have this brain that amplifies our desires and makes life fairly unpleasant for us. It's a pain amplifier stuck in our heads. Yeah, without pain we don't do anything. So, instead of being like an animal, we go out, we eat, then we lay around until we're hungry again. No, we're planning for the next fucking 30 years or whatever. So not only are we anxious about the next meal, we're anxious about the next meals for the next 30 years. Or having enough income, or going jogging every day so we can stay healthy, or you know, whatever it is. So human beings have it fairly difficult because we've got this pain amplifier on our head that makes us do a lot of stuff and produces anxiety. So there is going to be a ready market if somebody comes along and says, actually, there are ways to get away from all of that. And they're variously called enlightenment, nirvana, moksha, salvation, whatever you want to call it. I think one of the modern words is abundance. You can plug into abundance, the church of abundance, where you ask God for stuff. And there are spiritual, well, I wouldn't call them traditions, spiritual movements about abundance, because people want stuff. They want money. Instead of getting off their asses and going and earning it, they pay somebody a couple $100 to tell them that they can just think about it. So we get to the contemporary gurus, and isn't it amazing how they're all the same? I'm not going to mention names. I don't want to end up in litigation, and I don't want to pick people out. But you know who they are. You know, they sit usually in a very, very nice hall or theatre with a freshly murdered bunch of flowers sat at one side. And they sit there very, very controlled. In fact, they're sort of kind of rigid in their posture. There's nothing authentic or spontaneous about their posture. It's very rigid. And they sit there with a very calm, artificially calm expression on their face. And they speak in this quiet, artificially calm tone. Well, if you've just murdered someone, you don't need to worry about that. You know what I'm talking about? That sort of quiet, calm tone Oh, they've just sounded the 4-minute alarm. There will be thermonuclear Armageddon in 2 minutes. Well, do these people fart? Do they belch? Do they watch porno? Do they masturbate? Have they ever kicked the cat? Do they vomit? Because it doesn't seem like they do those kind of things, does it? Do they ever get really pissed off? Or do they ever get really excited like a kid? It would seem not. It would seem that they're kind of frozen into this character that they believe everybody wants, because people flock to these gurus in their tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, millions. And all these people are doing, these contemporary gurus, is trying to portray what all these unfortunates want. They want to be calm. They want to be kind of like that, anaesthetized. So what if all these contemporary gurus are con men? What if all they're doing is taking the pretty bits out of some Eastern traditions and presenting it to people as their own stuff, and they know that because millions of people in the East maybe have fallen for it, then they can bring it over here and millions of people in the West are going to fall for it. So what if it's just a whole pile of nonsense? And then we get to religions. Well, religions, there are lots of religions, back to Zoroastrianism, if that's how you pronounce it. And there's a kind of believing among people, particularly New Age type people, that because something's ancient, it's bound to be true. Well, as U.G. Krishnamurti says, many of the so-called gurus in ancient India were just fucking doped up. They were just doped up and they said stuff and people took it as gospel. And Spinoza talks about the prophets in the Bible. He just says, these guys had very active imaginations. I think he was being kind. And as for the miracles, as far as Spinoza was concerned, the miracles were just natural phenomena that in the day looked pretty unusual. But even so, we want to believe in the extraordinary. We want to believe in the miraculous. I mean, above all, we want to believe there's a big man in the sky looking after us, although most people these days have kind of given up on that one. And no wonder, because in the 20th century, 127 million people were slaughtered in wars and purges and revolutions and, all that kind of stuff. It'd be hard to confirm that there is a big man in the sky looking after people with that kind of thing going on. So, the current thing is a lot of people have moved away from Christianity and they've tried to embrace Buddhism, or maybe Vedanta or something like that. And it's sort of like out of the frying pan into the fire. There's no critical thinking. There's no saying to oneself, this guy is saying this. Is it true? How can I find out if it's true that there is a self? How can I find that out? Well, I can't. Well, in which case then, he could have said there's a green swamp monster on the moon. You're not going to be able to establish that one for yourself either. So, you should know that Buddhism, particularly, was used for suppression of the masses in the East, pretty much as Christianity has been used in the West. These things are not innocent, nice things, where you go and stick an incense stick in a pot and sit in a meditation posture and wear a saffron robe. People, there's nothing wrong with it, other than people would be disappointed. They'll be disappointed if they're looking for enlightenment or nirvana or salvation or whatever. Because nothing's going to happen. But, if putting on your saffron robe and lighting the incense stick and tinkling a little bell and all the rest of it does it for you, then so be it. As John Lennon said, whatever gets you through the night. But let's not pretend that there's something wonderful and mystical and all the rest of it going on here, because there isn't. So, I've said that there's a danger of throwing the baby out with the bathwater here, because undoubtedly there is wisdom in the Christian religion, in Judaism, in Islam, in Buddhism and so on. But you have to dig for that stuff. No one's going to hand it on a plate. Particularly some artificially calm, anesthetized sort of person sat on a chair with a nice bunch of flowers next to them, speaking in very calm tones. They're just going to give you the pretty stuff. And reality is not pretty. They're not going to tell you that you're going to die. They're not going to tell you that you may die from some horrible, painful thing like bone cancer. And they're not going to tell you that everybody you know is going to die. And they're not going to tell you that actually there is no meaning. I mean, depending on your inclination, the fact that there's no meaning could be the most liberating thing on earth for you, because it means you do what the fuck you want within the law. Or it may depress you because your little ego can't get validation from someone saying, oh well, the meaning of your life is to be this super fucking person that everybody adores. So anyway, there is stuff in there, obviously, but you have to go digging for it. And you have to use your own intelligence. Now, I've poked around in that stuff for a long, long time. And yeah, there are things in there. And my favourite source of stuff from the East is Taoism. Well, particularly Lao Tzu. That's what it kind of boiled down to for me. And also Zen Buddhism. But do I believe I'm going to be enlightened or saved or anything like that? No, I don't. I do it because I enjoy it. It's there's real wisdom there, and it helps me in life. But I don't have expectations that the calm man sat on the chair with a bunch of flowers is going to be able to do anything for me, because you have to look at the other side of life. And when people read Lao Tzu, they read the pretty bits. They don't read the bits where he says that nature is executioner. They don't like that bit. Or they don't like the bit where Lao Tzu says, heaven is heartless and treats all things as straw dogs. In other words, we're just disposable items. They don't like that bit, so you don't see it on these stupid kind of memes that come out on Facebook or any social media like that, because people are looking for nice stuff. The problem is, if you don't address the reality will eat away at you inside until you have the courage to face it, or you become totally neurotic, totally in denial, which is the way that most people go. Anyway, to finish this, there is a different way to religions and spiritual traditions and things. And going back to the slide, what if they're all fanciful thinking? And there's the key to it, thinking. Because actually in a lot of that there is no thinking, there's just belief or faith. And what if there's nobody on this fucking planet that's got a greater insight into the fundamental questions than you have? What a leveler that would be. And all these charlatans are suddenly seen for what they are. So, I found a huge amount of useful stuff for me in Western philosophy, particularly Immanuel Kant. It's not easy, Immanuel Kant, so most people are not going to do it. But in a nutshell, Kant tells us that we live in a kind of dream. And, he doesn't just say that, he shows it. 700 fucking pages in the Critique of Pure Reason, each page torturous, to demonstrate to you that we live in a kind of dream. He would say living in a world of our own representations. And we know nothing about reality, and we cannot know anything about reality. Whew, what a relief. And Schopenhauer saying that our only mistake is to believe that we should be happy in life. Once you can accept that life is not around to be happy, or we don't live to be happy, then you can stop trying to be happy and in the process making yourself miserable. Or Spinoza, who says we're desire, and every creature desires, and every creature will kill, steal from, commit violence against other creatures to ensure its survival, because that's the thing that's driving everything on. And you have Nietzsche saying that our source of morality, these days anyway, is resentment. You only have to look at the liberal left, driven by resentment. Those people shouldn't be wealthy. All these people should have whatever it is they think they should have. And so you have woke. And what's the other thing? I can't remember the other thing now. The thing about women being abused. Me Too. Yeah, I mean, they're kind of legitimate in a way. Women definitely should not be abused. But, all of a sudden the whole thing is about fucking resentment. And Nietzsche is right on the ball with that. And in fact, in terms of morality, the morals of the day are always determined by the power possessors. You can always tell who the power possessors really are by the moral standards that are being set. Because in the days of the Christian church, who was setting the morals? Well, the Christian church, they wanted people to be humble, to be pious, to be charitable. Charitable towards them. Because if they were humble and pious and all those things, they weren't going to threaten the church, were they? And they were going to give their money to the church. So those were seen as nice morals and virtues. So, you get a lot of stuff out, the Western philosophers. For me, Kant is the most profound, because he tells us that the things that we desperately want to know, they're just, so the question, what is the meaning of my life, or what is the purpose in my life, is meaningless. Spinoza says the same thing. It's a meaningless question. In many ways. I haven't got time to go into all of that, and this has gone on long enough. So, there you go. The joke is on us, or has been on us, for thousands of years. The problem is, the joke has served a purpose. It's kept the masses at bay, so to speak. And as Spinoza says, if the masses are not fearful, they are to be feared. So, where we're going to go, and Nietzsche correctly predicted the bloodshed and mayhem in the 20th century. So where are we going to go now that, as Nietzsche says, God is dead?